MVP. When you look back at the season from hell that the Fever had, none of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close Game 3.
That right there is the story that should have dominated every headline. A team left for dead, a roster decimated by injuries, rallying together to make one of the most improbable runs to the WNBA Finals in recent memory. It's the kind of story we live for, but it's not the story the internet decided to tell. Instead, while the Indiana Fever were battling on the court, a completely different narrative was going viral online. A story about a secret plan, a hidden loophole, and a last-minute dramatic return for the league's biggest star, Caitlin Clark. It all centered on one seemingly suspicious fact. The Fever only submitted 11 players to their playoff roster, leaving one spot open. And for thousands of fans and dozens of media channels, that open spot became a symbol of hope. But today, we're going to connect the dots and show you why that symbol was actually a lie. A lie that resulted in the ultimate disrespect to the very players who were making the miracle run happen, especially the team's emerging leader, Aliyah Boston. We're going to expose how the media pushed a false narrative for clicks, break down the real strategic and financial reasons for that 11-player roster, and give the truth to the players who earned it. This is the kind of deep dive analysis we do here. So if you believe the story behind the story is what really matters, do me a favor and hit that like button. It's a small click that sends a huge signal to our team that you want more investigations that filter out the noise. All right, let's start by dissecting the anatomy of this viral lie. You can't blame the fans for wanting to believe it. The Indiana Fever's season was completely transformed by the arrival of Caitlin Clark. Her impact was immediate, leading to sold-out arenas and record-breaking TV ratings. She made the Fever the league's must-watch team. So, when she went down with a significant groin injury on September 4th, an injury the team called season-ending, it felt like the story was over. But then the impossible started to happen. The team, now undeniable underdogs, started winning. And as they got deeper into the playoffs, the hope for a miracle return for their superstar started to build. Okay, now we're getting into the social speculation that really fanned these flames. According to our research, platforms like Reddit and X were filled with theories that the Fever were playing chess by keeping a roster spot open. That speculation went into overdrive when fans started circulating videos of Clark participating in shoot-arounds and practicing her jump shot. Suddenly, the idea didn't seem so crazy. It was a simple, powerful, and hopeful story. And the media ran with it. The what-if became a maybe, and the maybe turned into a secret plan. But they all missed one critical detail. The plan was impossible from the start. They built an entire fantasy on a foundation of hope. But as narrative analysts, our job is to check the blueprints. And when you do, the entire structure collapses. The competitor videos and online theories all hinged on a single, misunderstood clause in the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement. The idea was that the CBA allows teams to activate players who are under contract but on an inactive list, like the injured list, if a spot on the main roster opens up. And since the Fever had an open spot, well, you can see how they connected those dots. But here is the critical piece of the puzzle they conveniently left out. That rule only applies to players who were submitted as part of the team's initial, locked-in playoff roster. And here's the hard truth. Straight from the league's own procedural documents, Caitlin Clark was not on the Indiana Fever's official playoff roster submission. Let that sink in. This wasn't a matter of her being healthy enough. It wasn't a matter of the team taking a gamble. From the moment those rosters were locked, her season was over. Period. The open 12th spot was completely irrelevant to her situation. The door wasn't cracked open for a dramatic return. It was sealed shut by the league's own rules. The entire viral narrative was built on a fundamental misunderstanding, or a willful ignorance of how the system actually works. Now that you know the procedural reality, I have to ask, were you one of the people caught up in the hype, hoping for a miracle return? What's your reaction to learning it was never even a possibility? Let us know in the comments below. So, this is where our real investigation begins. We've filtered out the noise and debunked the lie. The spot was never for Caitlin Clark. That forces us, as analysts, to ask the more important question. Why was it open? This wasn't an accident. In professional sports, every roster decision is calculated. So, we have to dig deeper and explore the real strategic reasons the Fever front office went into the playoffs with only 11 soldiers. And the answer reveals a story of smart financial management and a profound belief in the team they already had. To understand the real game being played, you have to look past the court and into the front office. Because the first reason for that 11-player roster isn't about emotion, it's about business. Let's be real for a second. The Indiana Fever entered the season as significant underdogs. Most analysts didn't even have them making the playoffs, let alone the finals. So, from a purely strategic and financial perspective, you have to ask, why would a front office, expecting a short postseason run, pay a 12th player who likely wouldn't see significant minutes? In a league with a salary cap, every dollar counts. A decision to go lean into the playoffs can be a calculated financial move to maintain flexibility. It's the unglamorous side of the sport, the part that doesn't make for exciting viral videos. But it's often the reality. It's a pragmatic choice made by a team that was built to fight, not to be the favorite. But the story doesn't end there. Because while the financial angle makes sense, I believe the real reason is much more powerful. It's a story about coaching, culture, and a vote of confidence that became the fuel for their entire miracle run. To get this, you have to remember the absolute chaos this team endured. They didn't just lose Caitlin Clark. The injury report was a revolving door. Key players like Sophie Cunningham, Erica Wheeler, and others were all sidelined at critical moments. Lesser teams would have folded, but under Coach Stephanie White, the Fever rallied, defeating higher-seeded teams and shocking the entire league. They forged an identity in the fire, becoming a tough, resilient, next-player-up unit. Now imagine you're Coach White. You see this group that has battled through adversity and defied all expectations. Do you bring in a 12th player from the outside at the last minute? Or do you look at the 11 warriors in your locker room and send them the clearest message possible? This is our team. I believe in you. The group in this room is all we need. By leaving that spot open, the Fever front office wasn't waiting for a ghost. They were rewarding the players who were actually there. It was a declaration of faith in the chemistry they had built. It aligns perfectly with Coach White's public statements, where she emphasized the team's grit and focus, saying, "It's not finished, we're not done." That's not the sound of a coach waiting for a savior to return from injury. That is the sound of a coach who believes her champions are already in the building. And at the heart of that belief was the emergence of a new leader. And no player embodied that belief more than Aliyah Boston. When Caitlin Clark went down, the entire league expected the Fever to crumble. The pressure to fill that void would have broken most players. But Aliyah Boston isn't most players. She didn't just step up. She rose to a completely new level. The research shows that she embraced a larger leadership role, becoming the emotional and statistical anchor of the team. She, along with a scorching hot Kelsey Mitchell, put the team on their backs. They became the story, a real, tangible, and inspiring story of leadership and resilience. And this is where we have to connect the final dots. This is where the media's actions go from simple speculation to profound disrespect. While Aliyah Boston was leading her team through the fire, grabbing critical rebounds, and making clutch plays to secure their spot in the finals, the media was chasing a ghost. Every article, every video, every podcast segment dedicated to the impossible return of Caitlin Clark was an erasure of Aliyah Boston's incredible achievement. The open roster spotlight wasn't just bad reporting. It was a damaging narrative that actively minimized the accomplishments of the women who were actually on the court, Taj, winning the games. It told the world that their story wasn't as interesting, that their hard work wasn't as valuable as the fantasy of a superstar's return. That is the ultimate disrespect. The truth is that 11-player roster wasn't a sign of weakness or a secret plot. It was a testament to the team's strength. It was a coach's declaration of faith in her locker room, a front office's pragmatic strategy, and a symbol of the tight-knit chemistry that defined one of the most surprising finals runs in WNBA history. The media sold you a lie about a loophole for one player, when the real story was the heart of the 11 players who proved they were more than enough. So what's your take on all this? Who do you think was more disrespected by this false narrative? The players on the court whose achievements were ignored, or the fans who were deliberately misled for clicks? Let us know your final verdict in the comment section below. If you believe in getting the full story and value this kind of deep dive analysis, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. This story is over, but the next narrative is always just beginning, and we'll be here to filter out the noise for you. And finally, if you know another fan who got caught up in the "what if" headlines, share this video with them. Every narrative analyst deserves to be in on the real conversation.